So we're now about a week in, and this is kind of how far I've gotten. Over about 48 hours over the weekend, my wife was on call. I was working. Here's what I've gotten to. I've gone to version 1.3 of the Ask Portia portal, right? So, like I said, we're starting off focusing on ARCPs, and I've vibe coded, or well, slightly more than vibe coding, but anti gravity agent assisted coded this project so far. And I said, okay, cool. We're going to help people export their PDF, upload it along with a checklist. And it's currently optimized for ST4 plus trainees in emergency medicine. And if you list, and it's all kind of functional, this app. So you can do the evidence mapping, curriculum alignment, and get a report. If you upload your portfolio as in you export your entire portfolio as a PDF, upload it here along with a checklist if you have one. If you don't have one, it'll use like a standard checklist that I created for ST4 at the moment. And you add some demographics and when your last ARCP was, when your next ARCP is coming up, and you run it. It then goes through these processes and gives you a report saying like how much percentage on or off are you for your ARCP, what data it found, and what data it needs. And the way it works is that you upload the things, Ask Portia reads the visible evidence. So AI parses through the data. It checks it against the checklist that you've uploaded, and then it gives you a feedback back. You can then download it as a PDF, go ahead and use it. And so you don't have to like create random Excel sheets to figure out what do you need to do next. You just like, oh, ARCP is coming up in 4 weeks, 8 weeks. I've got to do all these things. Off I go and be ready for ARCP. It even looks at like things that are across HST, whether you've done the annual requirements for whatever you need to show for progress towards those things, how many SLEs you've done. I didn't want it to look at qualitative data, but the AI is definitely able to do that. So I got here, I got really excited, and I was like, cool, this week I'm going to get this out to everybody, stop getting people to use it. And this is my first MVP, and we can get moving from here. But I've hit a bunch of trouble, and I have made some big mistakes that I want to tell you about, and what I'm going to do about them, right? So the first thing, if you may have noticed, I've been quite particular about like patient identifiable information not being on there. And that's a requirement for our portfolios. We know we shouldn't be putting patient identifiable information on there. But I've taken on that responsibility before I've actually built the thing. Like to do this, I've had to build the brain that gets the information, organizes it in a way that can appropriately and reliably check it against a checklist. And if that's what the product is, the patient identifiable information situation is just a distraction. Like the number of times I've run this over and over and over again, and it says can't run because PII found, can't run because patient identifiable information is present. And the truth is, like, it thought random emails of the consultants are patient identifiable information, the location of the hospital is PII, addresses are PII, um, dates are PII because they look like dates of birth. So I had to clear that up. And then there was like, ooh, there is actually personal information. So the email addresses of everyone who's filled out something on a portfolio is visible. And then it's like, ooh, how do I like take on that data? Then I went into the back end and like, how do I secure the back end? And all of this stuff before actually building and testing whether the core functionality of this thing works. So here's what I'm looking at it now. And I just want to walk you through what else has kind of happened in this week so far. Cool. So today is the 19th of March. And this whole idea started on the 12th of March. Well, it started ages before that, but I actually decided to take it up, call it Ask Portia, get started creating these videos and stuff on the 12th of March. So I'm going to say this is a log of what's happened in a week. And I've written down a couple of notes that I want to bring up and share with you guys. So first of all, I had a couple of really interesting meetings. I had a meeting with a biomedical engineering student who does AI and machine learning and gets involved in hackathons and can build tech stacks. I had a conversation with the founder of SkillSync, and I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this. You should go check out SkillSync. They have something called the Easy Portfolio. This is a new portfolio that I believe it's .ai. I can't remember, or .com. Check it out because it's a new sort of portfolio that uses AI. So you can talk to the AI to create your reflections and also auto maps things. And he's got a team of clinicians as well as tech builders creating the platform. So it's already up and running. They're already doing a pilot in bots. He comes from having worked for a portfolio company before, so he's familiar with what that back end mapping process could look like and should look like, and what the functionality of the portfolio needs to be. And we had a really good conversation because I was like, I want you to work with me. And he was like, I want you to work with me. And we're like, we want to work together, but we're taking very different approaches to the whole situation. So he's going very academic. They're writing a white paper. They are targeting Caesar clinicians and, solving the problem of CCT for people who are abroad or not on a traditional training pathway, and using this through pilots to prove that it works, and hopefully getting partnership and going more the B2B route, right? Whereas I'm going B2C, and I am targeting people who have portfolios already and are in training. So that is my route, and the very different um, directions that we're on. And I don't think he's able to come onto my journey and I'm able to go onto his journey, but we're definitely working towards the same problem, which is, improving portfolios. We want portfolios to work better for clinicians, for trainers, for trainees, and we've agreed to share notes and support each other and keep growing and see where this goes. So he's going to come on my podcast, the Clinician Founder podcast, in a couple of weeks, and we'll dig into how that works. That's been a really interesting conversation. I've then also had some conversations with consultants and trainers. So, some of them want to offer me pilots, some of them want to offer me investment, um, as an early considerations for investment. So these are good signs to suggest that people are willing to put time and effort and money behind what I'm doing, which means that it's quite valuable. Um, and if I were looking at my own frameworks for coaching, the first thing we kind of start talking about is the clinician founder niche. And firstly, to have clarity of direction, the things that I tend to work and focus on: who do you help? What problem do you solve for them? And how do you solve it for them? Right. And I think that's pretty clear. So right now we're starting with trainees in emergency medicine. So really narrow scope for success. And then you can always widen it and expand that out. So we have the who. What are we solving is like the friction in portfolios, which is currently the poorly managed filing cabinets, which are hard to file into and even harder to extract information out of. And it has to be done quite manually. And the linkages are not reliable. And there's another problem I've come across, which is the fact that if it's your training data, why does it live on the cloud? We've recently lost the ability to create folders inside our ePortfolios. And it's like all of that data that I'd really nicely organized, poof, gone. Like, if it's my data, I want ownership over it. And if it's my training stuff that I've organized, I want to know what that looks like. So that's the other problem. And how we're solving it is the thing that we've been trying to work on. And so far, the Ask Portia portfolio that I created was one of the ways in how I was going to solve the problem. So I'd taken on the narrow problem of ARCP readiness, and I was going to do this. But there has been some development, as I said, and I'll come on to that in a few minutes. Right. The next thing that I talk about with regards to clinician founder niche is to think about progress. What does progress look like? What do you need for progress? And there's three things that are essential. So one is asset generation. What are the assets that you'll create that will help you move forward? So at the moment, I've already started to collect IP in the form of what are those rules, algorithms, ways in which the data is being parsed and how it's being looked at against the checklist. That is the engine behind the initial bit of work that I'm doing. Right. The second thing is these videos. These videos capture my journey, capture the progress, and allow me to share it with the rest of the world. Right. Another thing we need to start building is a tribe. So I've got a tribe of trainers and trainees, people willing to support me, people who suffer from problems with the existing portfolios, and are willing to back me up and push me forward. And the amount of traction I've received already is pretty. I'm really grateful for it, to be honest. Like it's quite lovely. Um, and the last thing is milestones, and this is something that I did, and I realized, oh, I just looked at milestones. So when you have something you're working towards, that's when you start to get the clarity of like, okay, what are we really trying to achieve here? And I ended up creating these milestones for myself. So we've said we had the start in March, um, and we are looking at sort of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 3 months down the line, I want to have like 250 to 300 users. And I don't know if they're going to be paid users, but I want to have about 250 to 300 people having contacted and tried out and use this Ask Portia or MedVault, which is I'll come to that. We might be calling it MedVault, but 250 to 300 people who've actually tried to use it, and hopefully some of them, majority of them, have given me feedback. By 6 months, I'd like to have a total like reach of about 3,000 to 5,000 people. And that is no easy task, because only a percentage of people that I have reach for, and by reach, I mean people that are either following me on YouTube or ideally on a mailing list, because that's what I want to get them. So, reach is not how many people are following you. Reach is actually how many people do you expect to be able to see your product or your email or your message when you send it out to them. So I'd like that to be somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000. And at this point, I'm hoping we've got about 500 paying users. And that is a big stretch goal, right? And by 9 months, I'd probably like to cross about 1,000 users. Let me put first 100 in there somewhere. So maybe first 100 paying customers in here would be nice. You know, there's a saying that making plans is priceless, but following them is useless. But in the priceless section right now, we're making plans that kind of keep us going and move us forward. So we've done these bits. It's interesting when you're a coach, you're kind of looking at these things from the outside. But now when I'm in there, as I was having these conversations, the people that I thought would be valuable to bring on board onto my team, I kind of sang to myself, I was like, equity is all I have to give. Because I was like, I got no capital to be able to pay them. Would they be able to come on board? Would they be willing to come on board? And how much equity should I give away? Should I give away any of it? Do I need a tech build now? Do I pipe code the prototype and get it out there? As I spoke to more and more people, I realized, the people that I thought I wanted on board weren't in a position to come on board, and so I didn't have to give them equity. And then the more I thought about the tech build and all of those other things, it's like, actually, I could just contract that out. I could build the structure, the schema. I could get consultants, I could consult people, and perhaps what I do want to do is build a board, and I want to give them some equity. And I think I want to give trainers and trainees some equity. And I think that is more valuable than trying to give away equity for people who are maybe building. And you can get some loans, you can pay them out. It doesn't have to be a big VC capital fund. If there are people who are willing to invest in this early on, I could use that money to fund an initial build or MVP or SOC certifications and cybersecurity clearance and that sort of stuff. Um, there's going to be a little bit of money in setting up companies' house, about 50 to 100 pounds, but not a lot, right? Um, so it's an interesting take that once I started to have these conversations, that thing of like, oh, who do I give equity to? Am I ready to give it? Do I keep it? Is completely like gone away. And now I'm like, I could do pretty much all of this solo for the moment with a beautiful board that brings trainers, trainees, business mentors, and supporters and consultants. So we're doing the right thing. We're moving in the right direction. The other thing that's kind of happened in the last week or so has been around Trademark. I started to look at like, oh, is Ask Portia taken? Um, and in fact, even building this YouTube channel, Ask Portia, I had to say Ask Portia MD because Ask Portia wasn't available. Now, Ask Portia in itself turns out is an AI agent that is being used by some massive legal company. And so it's going to be a tricky thing to use. The domain name, so I went for, Portia.md, which was not available. .ai was not available. Ask Portia in any of these formats was not available. So it's a tricky one, and we could go ask Portia MD AI or something .co.uk or something. I'll have to find if that's available. But then this gave me the idea, like later if we're doing a physiotherapist, it could be PTs. If it could for nurses, it could be RN. So it was an interesting opportunity that kind of came up once I started doing this. I've still not bought a domain yet. And actually, the way this is changing is that what I think we're going to end up doing is creating a vault of information, of data. Um, and we might end up calling it MedVault or something as such. And I've still not done a IP search or trademark search for any of this. The MedVault could then have a AI assistant within it, which could be called Ask Portia. So things that I'm playing around with. But the good news is that the code in itself, according to UK, is protected under copyright. So nobody can steal the code that I'm actually generating as a result of creating this app and this product. So the rest of it is kind of interchangeable, but the core functionality of it is irrelevant, which is why I don't really care if someone has the trademark or anything else. It's the functionality that matters. And if someone's buying my product for the sake of the name it has, then that's not a really good product. Like the product should be such a good product, solve such a meaningful problem that the name and the colors and the UI and the experience is irrelevant, because the problem should be so big and the solution should be so good, right? Speaking of which, all this while I've been saying that current portfolios are filing cabinets that are just really poorly managed. Like it's hard to put files in there, and once you put a bunch of files in there, you don't know which one's which, and so pulling data out is hard, and there's no insights, and there's poor trends, and when it comes to ARCP, it is a nightmare. Yeah, everything's on fire. That's supposed to be fire. Never mind. It is a nightmare, and somehow I decided to create this web page which would do the checklist and give you something back. But just notice there how I thought I was solving the problem. But if the problem is the filing cabinet, why is creating a checklist the solution? The solution, so I'm creating something that helps people get their ARCPs, but it doesn't actually target the root cause. It doesn't actually target the problem, which is the filing cabinet. And so, as I was listening to the Startup Founders podcast, and they were doing like a basics on AI agent generation, what basically AI agents now do, and this is how anti-gravity works, is that you create various files, and your AI agent that goes and reads these files and does what the files say. So, your agent is here and it might read a file on, how to structure past data. The next one might say how to compare with the checklist. Yeah. Basically, the things that you would tell a human, like if you were going to give this task to a random human being to say, here's my portfolio, here's my checklist, can you look through it and tell me what to do? The instructions you would give it and the rules to follow can basically be text files called markdown files, and they show up as .md files. And the agent reads those, understands that, and takes your data and puts it out into whatever format. So, output format is another file. So it could be a PDF file, which is what I wanted initially. It could be a dashboard. It could be whatever else. And so that's how agents work, right? And if you don't know about this other app called Obsidian, what Obsidian does, and I love this. I've been using Obsidian for a while. Is that Obsidian can take existing markdown files on your computer, Obsidian can take the files that are already on your computer and show you the linkages between them. So it can kind of show you which you have the option to, as you're creating these markdown files, you then create brackets that link one file to the other or one topic to another. And it can then allow you to look at, like, what are the connections to this? What are the connections to that? And basically, this is an overview of files on your computer that are in a specific format that this file can read, and then create a dashboard that shows it to you. So it all lives on your computer. Nothing goes to the cloud. No data leaves your computer. So it's like pretty safe. And the app downloads and it gives you an interface. Now, I really liked this because it creates the ability to basically bypass a lot of the issues and security stuff that we have, especially when using AI, right? Now, imagine if this is like SLO7. You can see all of the things linked to SLO7. And also, when you start and if you have unlinked files, they sit on the outskirts. So you can see what things you haven't linked to anything yet and what are the things that you've overlinked as well. So that's kind of the idea that I've been going off. So I like the idea a lot. I like the idea of, it being offline. I like the files staying local and not going to the cloud. I don't want to hold on to anyone's data, and I don't want this data to be misused. I think it belongs to trainees, and I think um, the trainee data is something that we should be able to use for our advantage. And I think it needs to be organized in a way that is easy to create and easy to pull out, right? Uh, and then later, in a way that AI can query this and give you answers back, is the additional layer in the value offering here. The challenge now, so if we're creating this as the agent that solves the filing cabinet problem. So if the agent is now solving the filing cabinet problem because it's going to do a really good job of filing it in the right place, linking it to the right things. And then when you ask it something, it's like, ooh, I've already tagged it with this color and that note. And so I know exactly what to pull. If I just like pull one thing which is connected to all of these, I can give you all of the data. So, you want to look at all cases related to sepsis, pull that out because I've already marked that it's with sepsis. All cases related to SLO3, here's all of that because I've already done that. All cases with entrustment level 3, boom, here it is because I've done that. So if there's anything missing at entrustment level 3 or like the highest level of entrustment in that category, you want to go to the next level, boom, you have that. So if the problem is the filing cabinet, the process of filing and pulling the filing, that's what we want the AI agent to be able to do, because these markdown files can be created with you typing them out. They can be organized with you putting them in literal file folders in your computer. So, open my computer, create a folder like that. Literally the same thing, except humans make mistakes and we hate these tedious tasks. And if we're already doing everything else, then that's where the challenge lies. So the product isn't Obsidian. I mean, if you created those files for your entire portfolio, you could open them in Obsidian and fantastic, great stuff. But the thing that I'm creating now, the clarity that I'm having is that I'm creating this agent that can read through a PDF export of your entire portfolio, organize those files, tag them with the right situation, and then pull them to give you the right answers as well. Okay. So the first feature is going to be just this bit. We're then later going to work on the pulling feature. And once it's organized, we can then create a dashboard that shows you whatever's relevant. So, this can be a filter for ARCP. This can be a filter for USMLE. This can be a filter for, just airway competence. Whatever you want can be done with the dashboard eventually. So that's where I'm heading. So I'm heading now to essentially a local first model. We are using AI to file and to um, file and tag these documents, .md files. So they're very lightweight. And the good news is it doesn't need to be very intelligent AI. It doesn't have to be the latest Claude or ChatGPT. What I'm going to be using is Gemma. I'm going to be using Gemma 3.4b. It takes 4 GB space on your, about 4 GB space on your computer. And it's an open source model. It's by Google and it has free commercial license. And so that's what we're going to be building this with. And so my job now is to figure out what are these files that the Gemma model needs to be able to read and know so that it can do the right job with filing and then later with pulling. So far, that's kind of the progress I've made. And I think it's been mind blowing. We're no longer going to create this random web app where people have to submit their stuff. I want this to be a place where people can just simply click download as PDF on their portfolio and just have it filed away so that tomorrow, if your entire portfolio disappears, if Kaizen or ICP, whatever the online app is, if it disappears, you don't lose anything because it is housed in your local computer, on your hard drive, on your, whatever you want to store it on. It literally lives there. And if you wanted, you could open those folders and read it because it's going to be written in English. It's going to have a little bit of a header, which helps the AI then find the information really quickly. But you and I could read it in English and figure out like, oh, it's going to be, I'm thinking to organize it by years. So maybe ST1 onwards, or like annual years, like August to August maybe, or like depending on what like specialties. I know some people rotate in October. So we'll have to build those in, but those are later features. But something that's organized, then linked, and then can easily be pulled is what I'm working towards. And I want to hear from you. Is that useful? Would you like something like that? Am I missing something? Should I be optimizing for something else? Please leave a comment down below. Also, it's initially just going to be a computer app on Linux, Apple, hopefully Apple, Windows, Linux and Windows for sure, hopefully Apple. And you'll be able to download like a file that you just install and then you just give it your PDF and it creates those folders for you. And then a dashboard that you can interact with and hopefully an AI assistant in coming days. The question I want from you is, would you like a phone version of this or like a web app version of this? So if you're on the go, you can look at it and say, actually, what do I need to do? Or do you only sit down and look at your portfolio maybe at the end of the day or a weekend? Um, how much of a demand would you have for something that's accessible on the go on the phone? Because that would mean that your data would have to be reflected securely online, whereas initially it's just going to be on your secure device. And I think obviously this is where I start. We'll build the rest later when it comes. What else do I need to tell you? This has been really exciting and an interesting journey for me. So I'm now going to be building out these rules and these files in a way that Gemma 3 can use it. And I'd be super excited to get some early testers. So let me know if you'd be interested to test this out. And if you're a trainer or anybody who's not a trainee and you have a different perspective of this, or you think that there are other features that would matter to you, feel free to put them down in the comments for me as well. I would love that. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. I will come back to you in about a week's time. Drop me a subscribe and see how Ask Portia develops. See you later.